All right, hi everyone. We're going to do just a quick video lecture about filter envelopes. I'll show you guys how to do some filter envelopes and filter contouring, and then I'll walk you through the first assignment. So last time we talked about envelope shaping and how we can use the ADSR controls on the envelope generator to change the volume of our synthesizer's notes over time. The thing is, envelopes can be used to shape a number of modules. So we can use them on the VCA like we talked about last time. We can also use them to change the position of the filter or to change the pitch of the oscillators. So over the coming weeks, we're going to look at envelope shaping on the filters and the oscillators as well. So we already know about envelope shaping on the amplifier. So today we're going to talk about envelope shaping on the filter. But first you might ask, why would we want to apply an envelope to the filter in the first place? Well, it actually has to do with the way that timbre manifests on a lot of acoustic instruments. So many instrumental sounds change color, change timbre over the course of their envelope. So if you listen especially to, say, the sound of a plucked string instrument, if you listen to the very beginning of that note, there's this noisy sound. There's this burst of noise that happens when the pick hits the string. Listen again. You hear there's that click at the beginning. So we call that an attack transient. There's this burst of energy right when the note begins, right at the attack. So attack in that it happens at the beginning of the note, transient in that it doesn't last very long. So like a transient is like a drifter or something, a person that's not in your town for very long. Transient is anything that lasts for only a brief amount of time. So an attack transient is a burst of energy that happens at the attack of a sound. Now on the guitar note, that was actually like a burst of noise. But we can also have attack transients that are just a stronger presence of higher harmonics. For instance, like in this trumpet note. Now, the spectrogram on your slide is actually a spectrogram of that trumpet note, and you can see right here, at the very beginning, at the attack of the note, there's a very narrow area where the harmonics are strong, going all the way from low to high. So right at the front of that note, the harmonics are really, really strong. And then immediately after that short attack transient, you can see the higher harmonics come down a lot. They're not nearly as present. And then even after the attack transient, you can see that as the note continues, the high harmonics fade out over time relatively quickly. Then there's like this middle range of harmonics that fade out a little bit before the end, and then only the lowest harmonics are present and strong all the way from beginning to end. Listen one more time. So in hearing this trumpet and also hearing the guitar, we can hear that the timbre of instrumental sounds very often changes over time. We can have these really strong attack transients, and then even after that, the timbre, the color of the sound can change as the note sustains. So when we use an envelope to shape the cutoff frequency of the filter over time, we call this filter contouring. Contouring meaning to give something a shape. So we're giving the filter a shape over time. So filter contouring is just using an envelope generator to change the cutoff frequency of a filter over time. So we still have an attack, decay, sustain, and release, only this time during the attack, we're not changing the volume, but we're going to hear the filter open as it moves towards its max position. That sounds like this here. Then during the decay, the filter is going to close a little bit as it moves towards the sustain level. And on the sustain level here, we're just talking about the position of the cutoff frequency. So the filter is going to open up during the attack, close a little bit during the decay, then it's going to stay put during the sustain, and then eventually during the release, the filter is going to close and move back to its starting position. So you can see that in the contour at the bottom. We're opening during the attack, moving to a max position where the filter is open all the way, close during the decay, stay at the cutoff during the sustain, and then close some more on the release, moving back to our starting position. So on the MS-20, the filter is internally patched through EG2. And you might think to yourself, wait a minute, I thought the amplifier was patched through EG2. What about EG1? We're going to come to EG1 next week, but for now, we're going to use the same envelope generator that we use for the amplifier for the filter. So EG2 is going to control our filter movement in addition to controlling our amplifier. So the way that we get EG2 to also apply to our amplifier is we're going to use our EG2 knob. Now, if you look beneath each filter, you'll see an area of the synthesizer that says cutoff frequency modulation. And beneath each filter, there are two knobs, one that says MG/TXed and one that says EG2/Xed. So we're going to ignore those top two, and we're only going to use the knobs at the bottom that say EG2/Xed. So EG2 refers to the fact that this is going to tell the filter how much of the envelope generator to apply. The /Xed, don't worry about that. We'll get to that later in the course. So for now, these are just EG2 knobs. So this EG2 knob is going to increase the intensity or the depth of the filter contour by changing the minimum and maximum position of the cutoff frequency. So if you look at the slide there, you can see an envelope on the left that's kind of shallow. It opens up, moves to its max position, closes during its decay, sustains, and then goes to a release. And then on the right, you see another envelope that looks the same, except it's a lot taller. It starts at a lower point, then its maximum position is at a higher point, but if you look closely, its cutoff frequency remains the same. So we're just changing our starting point and our maximum point. And this is what happens as you move that EG knob around. So here's what I would have you do. Go ahead and give yourself an audible envelope on EG2. That is, give yourself some attack, some decay time, a sustain level that's lower than 10, maybe around 5 or so, and give yourself some release time. Once you have that, go ahead and close your low pass filter a little bit. Set it to, say, somewhere between 5 and 7. I would also recommend giving yourself a fair amount of resonance, as adding resonance makes the filter contour a lot easier to hear. So I'm going to set my resonance to around 6.5 or 7. Then what I'd have you do is play a series of notes and gradually increase that EG2 knob beneath the low pass filter and see if you can hear that envelope being applied and also that envelope getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Here's what it sounds like on my instrument. Okay, so pause this and then go ahead and try that on yours. So I gave you guys one piece to listen to this week. This is by a duo that was really active in the 90s called the Moog Cookbook. Moog, of course, being a famous synthesizer brand. So the Moog Cookbook was a duo of artists known for their synthesizer arrangements of popular songs. They released a couple records, one doing arrangements of like 90s alternative songs, and one doing an arrangement of a bunch of like classic rock songs. So the piece I gave you guys to listen to is from the latter. It's a cover of the David Bowie song Ziggy Stardust, and they're playing the entire piece on analog synthesizers. And the reason I picked this song in particular is because almost all of the instruments have very noticeable filter contouring. So when you listen, you'll hear a lot of instruments that have this wow, wow sound. And that's the filter contouring. That's the envelopes being applied to the filters, giving each instrument this wow, wow sound with every note that it plays. So let's listen to a little bit. So I'm going to play just a little bit of that again. And I want you to pick a timbre, pick a musical line that you find interesting, and then try to reproduce it on your synthesizer. See if you can get something that sounds similar on your MS-20. Okay, so that's the only new thing I wanted to cover today. Let's go ahead and look over at the assignment. Okay, so this assignment is posted to Blackboard, and I handed out a copy in the last class. So you can see the due date there at the top of the page. And you can see that there are two parts there, Part A and Part B. Let's just start with Part A. It says, starting from normal setting, design a patch on the MS-20 using only the VCOs, VCFs, and VCA. And by VCA, we're also including envelope generator too. So basically just the stuff that we've covered so far. Your timbre should meet the following requirements. And then here's a checklist of 5 things. And these are the 5 things I'm going to be looking for. So you do these 5 things, you're going to get full credit here on Part A. So number 1, the tone should be harmonic. So pick a harmonic waveform. Number 2, the oscillators should be in unison or octaves, and make sure intonation is perfect. Intonation has to do with the 2 oscillators being in tune. So you're going to have to finesse that VCO pitch knob to make sure that both your oscillators are sounding in tune with each other. I'm going to grade this pretty strictly, so make sure that you really get them in tune and you don't hear any of that beating. Number 3, there should be a slide in pitch between each note played. So there's some control on the oscillators that helps you get that effect. The 4th bullet, at least one of the filters should be partially closed. And lastly, there should be some audible filter contouring. And by audible, I mean you not only need to have that EG2 knob up under your filter, but the filter contouring should be audible. So you should have an envelope that perhaps has some attack or release or something so I can actually hear that filter move. Or you need to have your low pass or your high pass filter closed a little bit so it actually has somewhere to go. If you try to add filter contouring but you leave your filter all the way open, the filter isn't actually moving, it's just staying put the whole time. So close one of those filters, bring up that EG2 knob to get that filter contouring going, and then also make sure that your envelope generator gives you an envelope where there is some movement. So it's not just a normal setting, but it's got some attack or decay or release. So you're going to label your settings on the attached blank patching sheet. That's this last page here. You're going to go ahead and label all your settings. So draw in those circles. You can write the numbers for any knob that's set to a number, like attack or release or filter cutoff. And then in the waveform circles, you can just draw the symbol for the waveform. So you're going to label your settings on the attached patching sheet. Then you're going to record a short piece of music in Logic right there in your DMP 352 patch and submit your recording via the Blackboard file exchange. And there's directions on how to do that in just a sec. So I'm going to show you how to do that recording in just a moment. But it says the music should be well suited to the timbre, and the music only has to be about 20 or 30 seconds long. So I don't care what you play. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could literally just be a series of long notes. Just something to give me a clear idea of how your timbre sounds. When I say the music should be well suited to the timbre, I mean, for instance, if you have a really long attack, then you probably don't need to be playing a bunch of short notes because I'm not going to hear the full length of that attack. If you have a note with a lot of attack, then you're going to be needing to hold longer notes so that I hear the full attack. This is kind of an important idea because it shows us how the timbres that we create on our synthesizers, in a way, determine the kind of music that we would use to play them with. Okay, so before we move on, let's look at part B. The exact same thing, start from normal setting and design a patch with the following requirements. This time there's only 4. First, the sound should be inharmonic. At least one of the filters should be partially closed. There should be some resonance on one of the filters. And the sound should have an envelope that allows the sound to fade in and fade out. So you're going to use your envelope settings to give yourself some fade in and fade out. You're going to label that at the bottom of your patching sheet. And then you'll turn those patching sheets into me. I don't need the front page. I just need the patching sheet with your name. And then I'll need your audio file. So let's talk about how the submission is going to work. Your submitted assignment should consist of 2 settings labeled on the patching sheet, which will turn into me, 1 sound file, an MP3, containing 2 short musical excerpts, about 20 to 30 seconds each, with some silence in between them, 1 played with each setting. So you record the first setting, leave some space, record the second setting. And we'll show you how to do that in just a sec. Okay, so let's talk about how we're going to record our assignments. You can see I've got our Logic Patch open here, and I've clicked on the second track here, the one that says MS-20 Audio. This is the one that we're going to use to record audio from the MS-20. So let's say I've got my synthesizer all set. I've done all the requirements for part A, and now whenever I play my synthesizer, it sounds like what part A should sound like. Then I'm going to go and just hit record, and then I'll just play whatever I want to play. It could be some melody that I already know, that I've got under my fingers on the keyboard, or it could just be some short improvisation. Okay, so yours will probably be a little longer than that, but that's short enough for me to give you an idea of how to do this. So you can see here that I've got this little snippet that I've recorded. Now on my computer here, my waveform looks pretty strong. On the computers in the lab, however, they might look a little softer, and that's okay. They usually sound pretty good when it's all said and done. So even if your waveform doesn't look very loud, if you go back and listen to it by just hitting back and then hitting the play button, you should be able to hear everything okay. Okay, so now I've recorded part A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, give myself some silence, and then I want to set my synthesizer up for part B. I'll just take a second to do that. Mine's not really going to sound like part B. It's just, I'm going to make it sound different for the sake of illustration. Okay, I've got my synthesizer all set for part B. I'm going to hit record again after this gap of silence. Okay, so I've got part A recorded, a little gap of some silence, and then part B is recorded here. And so whenever we bounce this and I listen to it, I'll be able to hear your part A, I'll hear there's some silence telling me that part A is over, and then I'll hear your part B. Okay, so now how do we get this out of Logic? Well, we're going to go up to where it says File, come down to where it says Bounce, and then go to Project or Section. Notice you can just also hit Command B. So here, I've hit Command B. This opens up our bouncing window, and this gives us a few different options. First, in the top left here, you'll see where it says Destination. This tells us what file type we're going to bounce to. So I'm going to uncheck PCM because I only want an MP3. If I click on MP3, I've got some options for my MP3 here on the right. I don't really need to mess with those. So the next thing that's important after we click on MP3 are our start and end points. Now I want to start at the beginning. You can see my file here starts right there at the beginning at measure 1. So I definitely want my start point to be measure 1. Right now it's set to 15, which is weird. If I were to bounce this starting at measure 15, then my thing is actually going to start here, and then I would totally lose part A. So I definitely want to change this to 1. And then I need to check that my endpoint is after everything I've recorded. So this is set to measure 23 and some change. And yeah, measure 23 is after my second one ends here. So yeah, we can say maybe I'll even change it to 24 just to be extra safe. So I'll have a little bit of silence after my part B. Okay, then down here it says normalize. I'm going to suggest you guys keep that on. That'll give your relatively soft synthesizer recordings an extra boost whenever they're finished, and then it'll be very easy for me to hear them. And once that's done, I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to save that as my last name and then 01, and I'll just save it to the desktop where it's easy for me to find. Bounce that. And then it shows up here on my desktop, which is great. Now here's the important thing. You guys need to click on that and listen to it to make sure that it's there. So I can click on it, listen to it. Okay, my part A is there. If I click ahead a little bit, and my part B is there also. So that's great. So inevitably, every time I get an assignment, somebody turns into me a completely silent sound file or a sound file with only part A and not part B or vice versa. So it's absolutely important you listen to your bounced sound files and make sure that you've got both part A and part B present. Okay, so once you've got your MP3 bounced, you're going to upload it to Blackboard via the group file exchange by the evening of the due date. And to do that, I've got the instructions there on the slide. You're going to log into Blackboard, access our class, go to the control panel, and go down to where it says users and groups. You can also just go to the groups area in the top left of Blackboard's menu where it says content. There's usually a little menu item that just says groups. Once you get to groups, there's only one group. It's called DMP 352 assignments. When you go into that group, there's only one tool. It's the file exchange. So then you open up the file exchange, click on where it says add file, and you just upload your MP3 right there. It's basically just like attaching an MP3 to an email or something. And then you'll see your MP3 there in the list. And I just need your name there once with the MP3. And then you can turn in your patching sheet to me in person the day the assignment is due. Okay, so that's it for today. Email me if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys soon.